Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What's the creepiest thing your child has ever said to you? Not safe for work. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My 3-year-old says a lot of bizarre things as he's falling asleep. The weirdest was, "Mummy, why does the lady in the corner spin?" My then 3-year-old had a few gems. Him, "I was so mad at you I was going to destroy you." Me, "Yeah? How so?" Him, "I was going to throw you in a volcano." Me, "Why didn't you?" Him, "I don't know where a volcano is." Me, "So we good?" Him, "For now." The other one, him, "Too bad the babysitter died." Me, "No, she didn't, bud. She's just not here today." Him, "Or she's in the freezer," while staring at the freezer. Me, "You're pretty creepy sometimes, bud." Him, just smiles. My son tells me stories of scary Uncle Michael in his bedroom at night. He says he's a gray man that looks like his uncle and he climbs on walls and calls out to him, and one night he tried to eat him. Yep, nightmare fuel. My mother died a few weeks ago. I went to her house to get some things and she had a huge collection of stuffed animals that I brought home for the kids. My son, 5, and I were awake early about 3 days after her death, and he was playing with the stuffed animals in his room when he came out screaming and crying hysterically. This never happens. He's a very tough boy for 5. Now I was freaked, asked him what was wrong, and he was legit terrified. I'd never seen him like this before or after. He said that one of the stuffed animals moved. He said he was playing with the other ones and the little 2-inch beanie stuffed dog moved, turned its head, and looked at him. He said he threw a doll at it and its face got mean. He refused to go back in that room or leave my side until I put the stuffed dog in the trash. Not the inside trash or the outside trash near the house, but the dumpster down the street. I don't believe in ghosts or anything, but carrying that thing out to the trash, I got goosebumps and felt super freaked out. My 3-year-old granddaughter said, "Grandma, I just saw a man with no eyes go upstairs." My little sister had some creepy moments when we were younger. She often claimed that people were in her bathroom at night talking and watching her. She called them Poe and the Tape Monster. There are a couple of stories regarding them, both funny and creepy. One night she woke up scared and went to my parents' room to sleep with them. Before she went back to sleep, she used their bathroom, and when she came out she said, "Why are there people in your bathroom, Mommy?" Dad was out of town. Mom still swears this was the scariest thing that any sibling ever did. While I was driving my 4-year-old nephew around, he spent a solid few minutes telling me about the dead body he stashed in my trunk. This was a long time ago, and as far as I know, he isn't a serial killer. Do you ever wonder where children get these thoughts from? Could it be from hearing a TV in the background or adults speaking? Or is it in them? My mom loves telling me this story about the time I discovered hypnotism. When I was 4, I found out about hypnotism. I don't remember how, but apparently I became fascinated by the idea of having mind control abilities. One day, my mom says my grandpa loaded me into the car for one of our normal grocery store outings, only for him to return an hour later furious. After he calmed down, he told my mom that I refused to stop staring him down in the rearview mirror with a very serious look on my face. He had asked me to stop on several occasions, but said I never really replied. I just kept staring menacingly. Then, he said all of a sudden I looked into his eyes and said, "Papa, I'm going to hypnotize you. I'm going to put my toe in your mouth." My mom said she thought it was funny at the time, but couldn't laugh because my grandfather was seriously so enraged. Definitely thought it was more funny than creepy, but when my kid was 2, he was scribbling on a piece of paper and quietly sang to the tune of "Row, row, row your boat, scrape, scrape, scrape your eyes today." Not my kid, but I was working in a job, liquor store clerk, and a parent came in with their kid. The kid started acting a little silly and asked if he could work here. I asked him if he was 18 and out of high school. He played along for a while and eventually confessed he was 5. I told him, "That's okay. Maybe I'll work with him in 13 years. And he looked me up and down and said, "No, you'll be dead by then. I'm not even 30 yet. What does he know? What does he know?" The parent apologized, but it still rattled me a smidge. My youngest was 4, was on the carpet playing with his cars. "Son, I can't wait to get a new house when this house explodes. Me half listening. Sure. That sounds... Wait, what? Son. Yeah, when our house explodes, be ready. And we'll just run out real fast. And then he turned back to playing with his cars like nothing was said. Thankfully, that was 5 years ago, and my house has not exploded. Yet. My ex-father-in-law died a couple years before my daughter was born, so she never met him. He was known as a pretty funny guy, always quick with a one-liner. As strange as it sounds, there were no pictures of him around until my daughter was about 4 years old, and my ex-mother-in-law set one next to the urn where his ashes were kept. The first time my daughter saw the picture, she pointed to it and said, "That's Grandpa." I like when he looks in my window, it makes me laugh. I don't like his friends though. She had never mentioned this. When I tried to ask her about it, she seemed nonchalant. She's older now and says she doesn't remember it. I'll never forget it. I love how most of this, through the child's mind, is just matter-of-factness, and we process it as adults like absolute fear bait and nightmare fuel. Just after my little brother was born, my mom, 3-year-old sister, and I were talking about what not to do around the baby. Things like not leaving small toys out or throwing balls around the baby. After a few minutes, my sister chimed in and said, "And you don't cut off baby's lips with a sharp knife." It was a Saturday morning a few years ago, and my wife and I were still in bed, and she was trying to convince me to make pancakes for breakfast. My oldest son, about 6 at the time, came into the room and agreed with her. He then said, "You should make some for Tyler, too." Now, he had never had imaginary friends, and we didn't have anybody in the house or family named Tyler, so I was curious and asked him who Tyler was. Tyler is the man sleeping in my bed. Anyway, turns out a local teenager had gotten pissed drunk the night before, jumped into the local public swimming pool, gotten separated from his friends, and wandered into my house thinking it was his friends, very suburban, all houses very similar, and passed out on my son's bed in his wet, chlorinated clothes. My son thought this was fine and went downstairs to watch TV in the living room until he fell asleep on the couch, which was apparently the height of awesome for a 6-year-old. We called the cops. He was incredibly embarrassed, apologetic, and still quite drunk, and they came and took him home. A year ago, my daughter was having night terrors. She was 4 at the time, would wake up screaming every night around 3 a.m. My wife and I would go stay with her until she fell back asleep. We assumed she was just having nightmares, but one morning she told me that she was afraid because there was a man in her closet that doesn't have a head who keeps waking her up. Not my kid, but a little girl in my son's kindergarten class told me she lives across the street from a cemetery. I asked her if it was spooky to live that close to a graveyard, and she said very matter-of-factly, "Not during the day, but at night they all walk up to our windows and scream." When I was about 6 or 7, the house we were renting was going to be sold. My parents instructed us to keep our rooms tidy because people may be walking through the house during showings. I had the idea to take a little box and write fortunes on it. Inside were little slips of paper with fortunes. The idea was that the prospective buyers would take a slip of paper to get their fortune, kind of like a fortune cookie. I remember the first couple of slips of paper said stuff like, "You will have good luck." Then the rest of them had some pretty morbid stuff like, "You're going to die." My parents read the slips of paper beforehand, then sat me down and sternly told me the fortune box was a no-go. I was a pretty serious child. It didn't occur to me that a fortune box should be lighthearted. I have an awesome video of my son. He was maybe 2 to 3 at the time. He was taking a quarter and trying to put it in a slot just above the door handle of a closed closet. He kept repeating his name, "Pay the lady, I pay her." When I asked what he was doing, he responded, "I have to pay the lady in the closet." I asked him, "Why is there a lady in the closet?" He said, "She lives there, I pay her." Not said to me, but to one of my colleagues. She has 2 sons, and the younger started to have these terrible nightmares where he's being chased by someone with a huge knife and wants to murder him and all the kids. He would, as you can imagine, wake up screaming, then refusing to go back to sleep. And then he asked his mom, "Mommy, is there a way how I could make myself not alive? I don't want to live like this anymore." I can't even imagine how his mom must feel when it's her child. Damn. I was talking to my son when he grabbed my face, got really close and whispered, "Mommy, you're talking too loud. You'll wake up Abiyoyo." Me whispering, "Who's Abiyoyo, buddy?" Son whispering, "Abiyoyo's my friend." Me, "Where is Abiyoyo?" Son, "In the mountain. He's sleeping. We live near a large mountain range." Me, "Why do we have to be quiet?" Son, "He eats kids when they're too loud. Sometimes when we were too loud, he would tell us all about to be quiet, then run to the window to see if Abiyoyo was coming. For a while I was afraid of looking up Abiyoyo online for fear that it would be some ancient demon or something, but my son kept bringing him up, so I finally got over myself and found out that Abiyoyo is a South African folk tale about a giant who lives in a mountain who comes down to eat the village livestock. Afraid that he will eat the villagers next, they find a way to stop him. They read the book to him at school. My eldest son, who was maybe 2.5 at the time, spent an entire morning saying in a sing-song voice, it's coming, ba-dum-dum-dum. Funny for minutes 1 through 3, irritating for minutes 4 through 15, ignore until minute 30, then it just got creepier and creepier. There are already much creepier ones, but still, we observed a man littering on our block. 3-year-old daughter, "He just littered." Me, "He did. Littering is bad." Daughter, "He should be executed," by which she meant specifically having his head cut off. Me, maybe not for a first offense. Well, that certainly would deter people from littering. I mean, who still litters, honestly? Remember before I was a baby, when I was a different little boy and I had a different mommy and daddy? Nobody. Do you remember that? Only a little. Playing on the floor with my son. He's 2, pillows on the floor. We're pretending to go night-night and sleep. Takes pillows away from me, stands above my head, looks down and says, "Bye-bye," and places the pillows over my face. My daughter was 4, and while we were eating breakfast one morning, she says, "I was on a mountain once, and my dad died, and then I woke up and was in this house with you and mama." Then we just sat there for a few seconds and looked at each other. Then she said she wanted to watch Paw Patrol. While babysitting, the kid would tell me to turn the rocking chair around because she didn't want the person staring at her while she was sleeping. I would do it, and the next day the rocking chair would be facing forward again. Not my child, but actually what I've been told I said to my parents when I was a kid. I always used to insist that I was a little boy named Chris, even though I'm a female, and my name is definitely not Chris. I insisted on this repeatedly as soon as I was able to speak and would break down crying from frustration if I was told I wasn't. I also regularly told my parents that I missed my real family, that they died in a car accident, and I wanted to go to heaven to see them. Extra weird, because my family isn't religious, and we hadn't discussed any concept of heaven prior, which left my mom worrying that she had a suicidal 3-year-old on more than one occasion. After a while, my parents convinced me to stop saying I was a boy named Chris, and instead that I was pretending to be one. But that just resulted in me once telling my mom that I liked pretending to be Chris, but that I got scared when I did because there was always so much blood. My mom asked me if I meant ketchup, and I looked at her like she was an idiot and said, "No, Mom, it's blood," and then refused to talk about it again. This spanned from around when I first started speaking coherently through kindergarten or so. I have no memory of it, except that I remember really wishing I was a boy named Chris, and feeling like something wasn't how it should be with me up until around 2nd or 3rd grade, or so, and then it just faded away. My 5-year-old daughter is trying to process the knowledge that everyone dies, so she tends to casually drop stuff about me dying into normal conversation. I know this is her age-appropriate way of trying to process the concept of mortality, but it is so unbelievably ominous, and it comes out of nowhere. "I like your pretty dress, Mommy, but you won't be able to wear it when you're dead." "I love you, Mom, but I'll miss you so much when you're dead." She also once dropped an absolutely terrifying comment about snuggling me when I'm dead. ETA, I'm 28, which in her mind is ancient. I'm practically at death's door.